the hidden chambers of the heart lies a knowledge long veiled from the eyes of the world, a wisdom whose light, though faint, yet endures beyond the decay of time. It is the remembrance of what once was, the echo of voices that have traversed the silent corridors of existence, carrying the fragrance of truths forgotten. This wisdom does not reside in the mere utterance of words, nor in the rigid adherence to forms, but in the subtle unfolding of the soul's intimacy with the divine, where each breath becomes a vessel of reflection, and every heartbeat a drum that calls the spirit inward. Those who have sought it in the marketplaces of learning have often failed to perceive it, for it reveals itself not through accumulation, but through abandonment of the self that clings to certainty, and surrender to the movement of the unseen. The outer world, in its relentless clamor, has obscured the path, and those who walk it without heed become as travelers lost in an endless desert, searching for water that lies only beneath the surface of their own being. The true seeker recognizes that the veil is not imposed from without, but woven from within, threads of attachment and desire forming a tapestry that hides the sun of understanding. In quiet reflection, the veiled eyes begin to perceive the glimmers of what has always been present, a subtle illumination that does not announce itself with noise, but whispers in the recesses of silence. To encounter this is to awaken from a slumber that the world calls life, and to enter a realm where time bends, where the distinctions between past and future dissolve, leaving only the eternal now, pregnant with the mysteries of existence. Every movement of creation bears a sign of this hidden wisdom, yet the unseeing mind passes them by as if they were shadows with no substance, a leaf falling in the stillness of morning, the reflection of the stars in a pool of water, the sigh of the wind through the empty streets, all are pages written in a language that speaks directly to the heart, yet is unread by those who have not learned the grammar of the inner world. The heart in its natural state is a mirror. When polished by contemplation, it becomes a vessel of revelation, capable of holding the light of knowledge that is not knowledge of the intellect alone, but a luminous understanding that transcends description. It is in this luminous understanding that the forgotten wisdom of Islam resides, a wisdom that has been preserved in the silent dialogue between the soul and its source, waiting for those who are willing to listen without the interference of preconceptions or fear. The journey toward this inner illumination is not marked by grandiose achievements or outward piety alone. It is measured by the subtle growth of presence, by the moments in which the seeker becomes aware of the divine in all things. A simple act performed with awareness becomes a gateway, a glance, a gesture, a whisper. Each bears within it the seed of insight. Those who approach the path with humility find that the universe itself becomes a teacher, each encounter a reflection of an eternal truth. The forgotten wisdom is thus revealed in the ordinary as much as in the extraordinary, in the silence between words as much as in the recitation of scripture, for it is not confined to rituals but permeates every breath of existence. There is a delicate balance between knowing and unknowing, between the heart's capacity to grasp and its need to surrender. To cling too tightly to understanding is to obscure it. To let go is to allow it to enter. In this tension, the soul learns the language of subtlety, where meaning is felt before it is conceptualized, where insight is received before it is sought. The wisdom of Islam, when forgotten in its fullness, becomes a shadow, a memory of a memory. Yet even this shadow can guide those who are attentive, for it points toward a reality that cannot be fully captured by words, a reality that is both immanent and transcendent, immediate and eternal. The seeker may wander through the landscapes of knowledge, encountering scholars and texts, yet find the heart untouched. For the essence of wisdom cannot be inherited, only discovered. It is like a flame that burns quietly within, often unnoticed until the moment of recognition arrives. In this recognition, the veils fall away, and the soul perceives that all things, no matter how distant or ordinary, are suffused with the presence of the One, and that every act of devotion, every sincere contemplation, every movement of love is a thread that reconnects the soul to its origin. In this light, the forgetting is not a loss but a necessary concealment, for only when the heart is prepared can the knowledge be truly seen, and only when the soul is awake can it be received without distortion. The language of the inner world is unlike the language of the outer. It is felt rather than spoken, known rather than described. Symbols, metaphors, and stories become vehicles for a truth that cannot be conveyed directly, yet speaks in every gesture, every sigh, every rhythm of the cosmos. The Quran, The words of the prophets, the practices of the faithful, all are mirrors reflecting facets of this wisdom. Yet the reflection is often dimmed by the eyes that see only the surface. To recover the wisdom, the seeker must learn to look beyond the surface, to read the signs hidden in the folds of experience, to perceive the sacred in the mundane, and to recognize that every encounter is a dialogue between the soul and the divine. Patience becomes the ally of the heart, for the unveiling of the hidden is gradual, like the slow emergence of dawn, in the stillness of the night, in the quiet moments of prayer, in the contemplation of the natural world. The soul begins to attune itself to a frequency that reveals the subtle patterns of existence. It is here that the forgotten wisdom speaks in ways that are intimate, direct, and transformative. The seeker learns that knowledge is not a possession but a participation, that to know is to be known, that to understand is to be embraced by the truth itself. And in this embracing, the boundaries between seeker and source dissolve, leaving only a luminous presence in which all questions are contained and yet none need be answered. In the forgetting, there is also mercy, for the heart that has wandered too long in outward pursuits learns to return with humility, and the mind that has grasped too eagerly discovers the beauty of surrender. The journey inward is both an unveiling and a concealment, for the deeper the soul descends into the mysteries, the more it realizes the vastness of what remains beyond perception. It is this dynamic of remembrance and forgetting, of seeking and yielding, that forms the cadence of the spiritual path, a cadence that echoes in the rhythms of the body, the cycles of nature, and the flow of consciousness itself. Every step toward this forgotten wisdom is an act of reconciliation, a harmonization of the inner and outer worlds, a recognition that the divine is present not only in revelation, but in the act of seeking, not only in the sacred text but in the attentive heart, not only in the grand gestures of devotion, but in the quiet attentiveness to life itself. In this realization, the veils are lifted slowly, each layer of misunderstanding, attachment, and distraction falling away, leaving the heart luminous, receptive, and awake. And in the awakening, the soul begins to remember what it always knew, the eternal presence that has never departed, the wisdom that has never been lost, only hidden, waiting for the one who turns inward with sincerity, patience, and love in the silent depths of the heart. There exists a path that stretches beyond the confines of letters, beyond the grasp of intellect, where the soul walks in a realm that cannot be charted by maps of reason or measured by the weight of knowledge. This path is subtle, hidden in the folds of perception known only to those who have cultivated the art of inner seeing, the delicate skill of discerning what lies beneath appearances. The scriptures, the words of revelation, the luminous utterances of the prophets all serve as gateways, yet they are not the end but the beginning, guides pointing toward an inner horizon where meaning unfolds like the petals of a flower, opening slowly under the warmth of contemplation. The letters, sacred though they be, are shadows of truths that dwell in the unseen, and to grasp these truths requires a turning inward, a journey into the secret chambers where silence reigns and the soul listens to the language of the invisible. To tread this path is to recognize that knowledge of the heart cannot be borrowed, cannot be taken from another, but arises from an intimate encounter with what is eternal within. The mind, with all its reasoning and memorization, serves only as a companion, a tool to aid in the preparation of the heart. Yet it is the heart that must receive and reflect the hidden light. The traveler on this path learns to observe without attachment, to reflect without interference, to receive without grasping, for the wisdom beyond the letter flows freely, yet cannot be held or constrained. Every symbol, every narrative, every divine utterance becomes a mirror, revealing the interior landscape of the soul, and each encounter, whether joyous or sorrowful, becomes a lesson in presence and awareness. The seeker quickly perceives that the apparent clarity of the outer world often conceals deeper complexities, that the literal interpretation of text can lead to rigidity if divorced from the subtleties of spirit. True understanding arises when the soul listens to the nuances, when the heart intuits the rhythm beneath the words, perceiving connections invisible to the surface gaze. In this way, the journey beyond the letter becomes a journey into meaning itself, where the form of things is respected but not mistaken for their essence, and where the divine intention behind every manifestation is perceived as an intimate conversation with the seeker. The veil between comprehension and revelation is delicate, yet it is penetrated by patience, humility, and the consistent turning inward, each moment of awareness lifting the shadow, revealing the luminous core of all that is. As the seeker moves along this hidden way, he discovers that the divine speaks not only in scripture but in every occurrence, that every sound, every movement, every breath carries within it a whisper of truth. The wind through the trees, the reflection of the moon in a river, the laughter of a child, even the silence of a deserted path, all become expressions of a language that is at once immediate and eternal, addressed to the soul that listens with care. To perceive this language requires a refinement of attention, a patient attunement, and a willingness to see with the eyes of the heart rather than with the mind alone. The truths contained within the letters are but the starting point, and beyond them lies an ocean of insight, vast, inexhaustible, and ineffable, accessible only to those who surrender to its currents. In this surrender, the soul learns to release the illusions of self-sufficiency, to abandon the need to possess or control knowledge, and to embrace a state of receptivity where understanding comes as a gift rather than a conquest. Each insight gained, each subtle recognition of divine presence, deepens the soul's awareness of its interconnectedness with all that exists. The seeker comes to see that the journey is not toward accumulation, but toward integration, not toward dominance over knowledge, but toward harmony with its hidden rhythms. This harmony manifests in every gesture of life, in the kindness offered to another, in the attentiveness to nature, in the contemplation of beauty and sorrow alike, for all are threads in the tapestry of divine meaning. There are moments when the path seems obscured, when the letters appear to conceal rather than reveal, when the outer forms demand attention, while the inner light flickers faintly. In such moments, the seeker learns the virtue of patience, the power of stillness, and the necessity of turning once more to the silent source within. The true teacher is not always a person, but the unfolding of experience itself, the pattern of events that invites reflection, the interplay of presence and absence that beckons the soul to deeper insight. In this way, the journey beyond the letter is as much about unlearning as it is about learning, shedding the assumptions and attachments that cloud perception and allowing the heart to see with clarity, to hear with subtlety, and to recognize the divine in all forms. The path is lined with paradox, for the more one learns, the more one realizes the vastness of what remains beyond comprehension. The seeker encounters truths that appear contradictory, yet in their reconciliation lies the key to understanding that the divine cannot be confined within any single expression, that the multiplicity of forms reflects the unity of essence, and that the apparent dualities of existence are but mirrors of a deeper wholeness. To embrace this paradox is to move beyond judgment, to dwell in the space between knowing and unknowing, and to allow the heart to expand in a rhythm that transcends linearity. Each encounter with paradox deepens insight, each recognition of mystery strengthens faith, and each moment of surrender draws the soul closer to the luminous center, where all distinctions dissolve. The language of the heart, refined through patience and attentiveness, begins to perceive the subtle codes embedded in creation, the signs that point toward meaning beyond the visible. A tree becomes a book, a star a verse, a river a flowing prayer, and every creature a teacher. The seeker learns to read these signs with reverence, to perceive the sacred in the ordinary, to discover in every moment a reflection of the eternal. The scriptures, the stories of prophets, the practices of the faithful, all become integrated into a living tapestry of understanding, where each element resonates with the whole, and where the act of reading, listening, or reciting is transformed into an intimate communion with the divine presence that permeates all things. As the seeker journeys deeper, the distinction between seeker and source begins to soften, revealing the continuity between self and universe, between heart and cosmos, between perception and reality. The wisdom beyond the letter is not a distant prize, but an ever-present reality, awaiting the attuned consciousness that can perceive it. It manifests in moments of stillness, in the attentive listening to the breath, in the gentle observation of life unfolding, in the embrace of both joy and sorrow as expressions of the same truth. Each insight illuminates a corner of the soul, revealing patterns that connect the inner and outer worlds, guiding the traveler toward a realization that transcends both thought and expression. The path is not without trial, for the deeper one ventures, the more the ego resists, and the more the illusions of the surface world assert themselves. Yet each challenge is itself a teacher, a mirror reflecting the attachments and fears that obscure vision. In meeting these trials with sincerity, The seeker strengthens the capacity to perceive without distortion, to witness without judgment, and to align the self with the unfolding wisdom that flows silently through existence. Through this alignment, the journey becomes a dance of presence, a rhythm in which the seeker participates in the continuous revelation of divine meaning, and the letters, the words, the forms of scripture all become instruments in the symphony of inner awakening. The ultimate realization is that the wisdom beyond the letter is not separate from life itself, not confined to study or ritual, not dependent on extraordinary circumstances, but available in every instant of attentive being. Each moment becomes a portal, each breath a prayer, each gesture a verse. The seeker comes to recognize that to live fully, consciously, and with reverence is itself the enactment of the hidden knowledge, and that in the integration of outer and inner, of form and essence of seeing and being seen, the heart attains the clarity necessary to perceive the eternal presence that has always been, and always will be, the source of all illumination. There are times when the heart encounters resistance, when worldly distractions and inner turbulence obscure the perception of the names. Yet even in these moments, the effort to remain attentive, to return to stillness, and to persevere in contemplation is itself a form of realization, a confirmation that the seeker is engaged in the living practice of awakening. The subtle wisdom inherent in the names is not a prize to be won, but a reality to be inhabited, gradually, patiently, and with reverence. Each challenge, each encounter with obscurity, is an opportunity to deepen the practice, to refine the gaze, and to cultivate a trust in the unfolding of the soul's journey, trusting that the names will continue to reveal themselves to those who remain sincere. The seeker comes to recognize that the divine names are inseparable from the divine essence, yet they manifest in an infinite variety of forms, each reflecting a facet of the one. This multiplicity is not a fragmentation, but a reflection of richness, a means by which the heart may perceive the infinite within the finite. Every act of reflection, every moment of sincere contemplation, every gesture of alignment with the divine qualities becomes a thread connecting the seeker with the luminous order of creation, a means of participating consciously in the ongoing revelation of reality. The realization deepens that the act of contemplation is not separate from living. To know is to be, to perceive is to participate, and to embody the names is to recognize one's inseparable connection with all that exists. In the unfolding of this realization, the heart begins to perceive the delicate interplay of presence and absence, of concealment and revelation. The divine names are present in all things, yet their perception requires attunement, patience, and attentiveness. The seeker learns that the ordinary moments of life, walking, breathing, speaking, observing, become opportunities to engage with these qualities, to refine perception, and to deepen the alignment with the hidden order that governs all phenomena. Even the smallest acts of kindness, the quietest moments of reflection, the briefest glances of awareness, are infused with the potential to awaken recognition, to illuminate the heart, and to reveal the eternal truth that lies within and around all things. The journey into the divine names culminates in a recognition that the separation between self and source is illusory, that the qualities one perceives externally are reflected within the soul, and that the practice of contemplation, reflection, and embodiment is itself a return to unity. Compassion, majesty, wisdom, mercy, and all other expressions are not distant ideals, but living realities to be inhabited, breathed, and enacted. In this inhabitation, the seeker experiences the luminous center of being, where multiplicity and unity, finite and infinite self and source, converge in a single harmonious presence, revealing the forgotten wisdom not as knowledge to be acquired, but as a luminous reality to be lived and remembered. In the vast expanse of existence, the heart comes to perceive the unity that underlies all multiplicity, the hidden thread that binds every form, every being, every phenomenon into a seamless whole. The apparent diversity of creation, with its manifold expressions, is but a veil that conceals the singular source from which all arises. To recognize this unity is to glimpse the divine intention woven into the fabric of reality, to feel the rhythm that animates the cosmos, and to understand that every distinction, every duality, every contrast is a reflection of the one. The seeker, attentive and patient, begins to perceive that the multiplicity of forms is not separate from unity, but its expression, that the ocean of creation is nothing but the waves of a single infinite sea, and that the apparent separations are only invitations to see more deeply, to penetrate beyond surface appearances into the luminous heart of all things. To behold unity in multiplicity is to awaken a profound vision within the soul, a vision that perceives the interconnectedness of all beings and the subtle harmony that governs the unfolding of existence. Each creature, each star, each particle carries within it the signature of the divine, and the attentive heart reads these signatures as a sacred text, a reflection of the invisible order that permeates the universe. The mountains, the rivers, the winds, the trees, all speak in a language that is both immediate and eternal, addressing the soul directly, bypassing the intellect, and awakening a recognition of the underlying wholeness that transcends all appearances. In this recognition, the seeker comes to understand that every encounter, every relationship, every experience is an opportunity to witness the unity that is hidden beneath diversity, to participate consciously in the unfolding of the divine harmony, and to perceive the sacred in the most ordinary of moments. The awareness of unity does not diminish the beauty or significance of diversity. Rather, it illuminates it, allowing the heart to perceive the purpose and meaning behind each form. The distinctions of life, light and dark, joy and sorrow, abundance and scarcity, are not opposites but complementary expressions of a singular reality. In this awareness, the seeker begins to cultivate a perception that sees beyond judgment, beyond attachment, and beyond the illusions of separation. The multiplicity of the world becomes a mirror, in which the soul perceives its own reflection, a reflection that reveals both the uniqueness of each manifestation and the inextricable connection of all to the source. Every interaction, every observation, every thought becomes imbued with significance, for each is a thread in the intricate tapestry of divine expression, and the attentive heart learns to read the patterns, to perceive the echoes of the one in all things, and to act with awareness of the unity that underlies the surface of appearances. The journey toward this recognition is delicate, requiring attentiveness, humility, and the willingness to relinquish habitual ways of seeing. The seeker learns that the perception of unity cannot be forced or grasped through intellect alone. It arises spontaneously in the receptive heart, in the moments of stillness and contemplation, when the mind ceases its endless chatter and the soul becomes attuned to the subtle harmonies of existence. In these moments, the distinctions that once seemed insurmountable dissolve, and the heart perceives that the entire cosmos, in all its complexity, is a single living reality, a manifestation of a singular divine presence that flows through every form, every movement, every breath. The awareness of this unity has practical consequences for the life of the seeker. Compassion, empathy, and care arise naturally when the heart perceives that every being is a reflection of the same source, that the suffering of another is inseparable from one's own, and that kindness extended outward resonates inward, harmonizing the soul with the greater order of existence. Similarly, acts of reverence, gratitude, and devotion are deepened by the recognition that they are not isolated gestures, but part of an ongoing relationship with the singular reality that animates all things. The path of unity requires attentiveness to both the inner and outer worlds, a recognition that the sacred is not confined to ritual or doctrine, but present in every interaction, every observation, and every breath. The seeker also learns that the perception of unity does not negate the existence of boundaries or differences. Rather, it situates them within a broader understanding of interconnectedness. The diversity of forms, the multiplicity of experiences, the variety of perspectives, all are expressions of the same underlying truth, each necessary to reveal a different facet of the whole. In this perspective, judgment softens, attachment loosens, and the heart becomes a mirror reflecting both the unity and the diversity of existence. The seeker perceives that the world is a living testament to the creative intelligence of the divine, that every contrast serves a purpose, and that even apparent conflict is a lesson in balance and harmony, guiding the attentive soul toward a deeper understanding of the interconnected nature of all things. The process of perceiving unity within multiplicity is not always effortless. The heart is often distracted by the noise of the outer world, by desires, fears, and attachments that obscure perception. Yet these obstacles themselves become teachers, revealing the layers of illusion and conditioning that must be peeled away in order to perceive reality as it is. Each moment of awareness, each instance of attention returned to the heart, becomes a practice in discerning the underlying patterns, a step toward the realization that the distinctions we cling to are temporary and relative, while the unity that underlies them is eternal and unchanging. Through this practice, the seeker gradually cultivates a vision that sees the invisible thread, connecting all things, recognizes the sacredness of every form, and learns to navigate life with a consciousness attuned to both the surface and the depth of reality. The unity and multiplicity also reveals the dynamic interplay between presence and concealment. The divine presence is never absent, yet it often hides behind the forms, requiring the heart to pierce the veil of appearances. The seeker learns to move beyond superficial perception, to look deeply into the essence of beings and events, and to recognize that every occurrence, no matter how mundane, carries a sign of the hidden unity. This perception transforms the ordinary into the extraordinary, the commonplace into the sacred, and the fleeting moments of life into opportunities for intimate communion with the One. The more the heart perceives this interconnection, the more it aligns with the divine rhythm, and the more it participates consciously in the unfolding of existence, experiencing life as a reflection of the infinite, rather than as a collection of disconnected phenomena. The recognition of unity does not lead to passivity or detachment. Rather, it inspires engagement with the world in a spirit of reverence and responsibility. The seeker understands that every action, every thought, every word contributes to the harmony or discord of the whole. In this awareness, ethical behavior, sincere intention, and mindful presence become natural expressions of insight. The heart learns that to perceive unity is to act with awareness of the interconnected web of life, to extend compassion where it is needed, to nurture understanding where confusion prevails, and to cultivate presence where distraction and neglect might otherwise dominate. Every gesture, no matter how small, becomes imbued with significance, and every choice reflects a participation in the ongoing expression of the divine order. The deeper the seeker moves into this perception, the more the multiplicity of creation appears as a mirror, reflecting the inner reality of the soul. Each being encountered becomes a teacher, each challenge a lesson, each moment of joy or sorrow a reflection of the dynamic interplay of unity and diversity. The heart perceives that the world is alive with meaning, that every event carries a whisper of the eternal, and that the apparent separations and distinctions serve as invitations to recognize the underlying wholeness. The seeker learns to navigate this world with a consciousness that is simultaneously discerning and compassionate, attentive to both the unique and the universal, recognizing in every form the presence of the One who animates it. In this continuous practice, the heart gradually becomes a mirror of the divine unity, reflecting the interconnectedness of all things with clarity and compassion. The seeker experiences a deep sense of harmony, a recognition that life is not a series of isolated events but a coherent expression of a singular, luminous reality. The multiplicity of creation is no longer a source of confusion or division, but a manifestation of the infinite richness and subtlety of the divine. Every encounter, every observation, every breath is an opportunity to perceive, participate, and rejoice in the unfolding of this sacred unity, and in doing so, the forgotten wisdom of Islam reveals itself as a living, breathing presence within the heart of the attentive soul, guiding, illuminating, and awakening the seeker to the eternal truth that underlies all multiplicity. In the culmination of the journey, the heart turns fully toward the source from which all life emanates, sensing the eternal presence that has always been, unseen yet intimately near. This return is not a journey outward, for the path has already been traced within. It is a recognition, a remembrance of what the soul has never truly lost. The seeker perceives that every step, every breath, every moment of attention and surrender has been a preparation for this reunion, a peeling away of distractions and veils that obscure the luminous essence at the center of being. Here, in the quiet intimacy of the heart, the boundaries between self and source dissolve, and the seeker experiences the profound unity of existence, where the flow of life is not separate from its origin, and every moment is both beginning and culmination, manifestation and return. The return to the source is accompanied by a profound stillness, a silence that is not emptiness but fullness, an unbroken presence that enfolds the soul and illuminates every corner of consciousness. In this stillness, the seeker perceives the subtleties of existence, the interplay of form and essence, the rhythm of manifestation that flows without interruption from the eternal to the temporal. The heart, once scattered by desire and fear, now rests in the awareness of the One, recognizing that the multiplicity of creation, the diversity of experiences, the flow of events, all are expressions of the same luminous reality. The seeker no longer measures life by comparison, by gain or loss, by beginning or end. but perceives it as a continuous unfolding of the divine presence, each moment pregnant with the possibility of insight, communion, and illumination. The culmination of the journey is also a realization of the impermanence of form and the permanence of essence. All phenomena, though transient, bear within them the reflection of the eternal. The seeker perceives that the essence of all things is luminous, unchanging, and infused with the divine presence, while the forms through which it manifests are temporary, shifting, and dynamic. This understanding brings a profound serenity, a release from fear, attachment, and resistance, and a capacity to inhabit life fully, moment by moment, with awareness, gratitude, and reverence. The return to the source is thus not an escape from the world, but an embrace of its fullness, a recognition that the eternal is present in every fleeting moment, and a conscious participation in the unfolding of existence. In this final stage, the seeker experiences a profound sense of unity, continuity, and harmony. The multiplicity of creation, once perceived as separate, is now understood as a dynamic reflection of the singular reality. Every breath, every thought, every gesture becomes infused with awareness of this truth. The heart, fully awakened, resonates with the luminous presence of the One, perceiving the sacredness in all things and acting in accordance with the wisdom that has been rediscovered within. The journey, from the veiled knowledge to the contemplation of divine names, from the perception of unity and multiplicity to the return to the source, completes a circle, revealing the forgotten wisdom of Islam not as an abstract teaching but as a living, breathing reality within the attentive, surrendered, and illuminated heart.